to Huntington Beach. Pretty exciting news. We actually have a new location opening up. For those of you that don't know, I have 2 locations in San Diego. One technically in Miramar, which is the San Diego Alliance. And I have another one in South San Diego in Chula Vista, which is Alliance Chula Vista. Most gyms around the world, I would say on average, have about 120 students. Maybe the top 1% have over 300. And so to have over 400 and roughly 600 students in 2 locations says something about the business model. And so Fabio Gugel and I had an idea, I would say, actually it was his idea. He wanted to open a location in Costa Mesa. And so what we ended up doing was figuring out that Costa Mesa wasn't the best fit. And so we brought on a developer and some specialists in the area for Huntington Beach and settled on this location that's 2 miles from the beach. It's on the corner of Beach and Garfield in Garfield Plaza. One thing about Alliance and about what I'm trying to do specifically is as I open up these new academies, like take things to the next level. And so that means in every perspective. So instead of just trying to find a place that we can afford or find a place that has barely enough space to fit in, just one mat and, maybe it's 3 or 4 streets off the main road in an obscure location, like I'm trying to change that whole perspective and change that paradigm. This is the next wave of what I intend to do. So I actually want to go step by step with you how this worked. For those of you who don't know and who want to open a gym, who don't know the process, or maybe you already have a gym and maybe you want to move up in the world and get like a better location or something like that. So there's definitely like a nuanced way to deal with these higher end plazas, I would say. So 2024 in May, we started looking. We put in offers in Orange County, various places, Huntington Beach, Laguna, Irvine, probably 5 separate LOIs, so letters of intent. And we settled on Huntington Beach, which is this Garfield Plaza, about 2 months later. So it took about 2 months to get an LOI signed. So again, the LOI is just the framework, right? So the framework, how big is the space? How much are you gonna pay for the space? How often are the rent increases? Who's responsible for the taxes? Who's responsible for the common area maintenance, also known as CAM? There's no obligation on either side, so it's what they call non-binding. So non-binding meaning that either one of us can walk away with no issue. And then from there, we move on to the lease. And that is where, you really got to dot your I's, cross your T's. And as they say, the devil's in the details. And so my advice would definitely be to hire an attorney who specializes in commercial leases. But from our perspective, that took probably another 40 days. September, we signed the lease. During that time, what we've done is we've applied for all the permits, and you need permits to make sure that the city and the local county understands the plumbing, electrical, and all of the things that come with moving utilities around the building. And anybody who tells you that you don't listen to them. That way, if there's ever a problem in the future, if there's a leak, if there's an electrical problem that you didn't apply for a permit for, what you'll find out is that you will then be liable for it. And maybe you'll save money and time on the front end, but 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, if you have a problem, it's going to cost you dearly. However, this location, as we're going to see today, has an existing tenant. So the existing tenant is actually a current gym. And that fitness gym has until March 5th. It's roughly 10 days away. And so in 10 days, they'll vacate. And then when they move out, we'll be starting our construction pretty quickly. From that point, I believe what our timeline is, once we start construction, from construction to being able to open the doors will be roughly May 1st, just in time for Worlds 2025. That's a very shortened version and condensed version of how this works. But we'll talk more about that later today. And like I said, I'll show you guys around the space. All right, guys, so we finally got here to Huntington Beach from San Diego. Our location will be here behind me. We have to blur out the sign for the existing tenant, but they're moving out in 10 days. We'll get a chance to show you guys the plaza. There's a Target in our shopping center. There's also a CVS as the 2 anchor tenants. Anchor tenants meaning like the biggest spaces, the highest paying tenants. So they anchor the shopping center. And then you have the smaller tenants in between that somewhat rely on these anchor tenants. And we'll show you the park situation, which again, I find to be one of a very overlooked characteristics of a Jiu-Jitsu academy, especially if you're dealing with locations like ours, which has about 7,500 square feet. We need ample parking. In an evening class, we might have, even in our Miramar and our Chula Vista locations, we might have 40, 50, 60 students on the mat, and maybe even more than that. So that would require people to be able to park. If there's no parking, I'm just gonna go home. If the community knows that this space has parking, they're more likely to come even check us out to begin with. Versus, I feel that most centers that don't have any parking, people in the area know that, oh man, that's a great new business, but I don't want to go there because I can't find a space. High visibility, over 2.5 million cars come into this parking lot every single year, on the corner of one of the best areas in Southern California, in Huntington Beach. The marquee, they also are known as a pylon sign, and we're going to be having our name on that pylon sign, so that's all part of the lease, right? So one of the things I was told, if you're not the top person on that pylon sign, you want to make sure you're the bottom, because I guess the way that our eyes float is, let's say there's 10 different businesses on that pylon sign. You don't necessarily look at the middle ones, your eyes kind of float towards the top, or you look at the bottom. And so in our situation, we will be the bottom one, and usually is dedicated by space. So the biggest tenant in the plaza usually gets the biggest space on the pylon sign, then it kind of goes down from there. That's important to make sure that's in your lease. One of the best areas in Southern California, in Huntington Beach, 7,300, 7,400 square feet roughly, and we'll be starting construction in about 10 days. So can't wait to show you guys when it's all done.